everybody. Welcome to the Mayor Dalina Show. I am Stephen Dalina, Mayor of Township of Monroe. I introduced the 2022 municipal budget at the May 2nd regular Township Council meeting that kept the municipal tax rate flat at 4.9 cents per $100 assessed value, the same rate as 2021. A public hearing was held at the council on June 1st at their meeting, and the budget passed that evening, which I'm very proud to say. As your mayor, I'm proud that this is the second consecutive year without a tax increase to the municipal tax rate. We've all worked hard on this budget, and I will continue to focus on affordability, property tax relief, and ensuring Monroe remains with the second lowest overall effective tax rate in Middlesex County for the coming year. As part of the new spending plan, residential water and sewer rates will remain flat and continue to be among the lowest in the entire region. Because the impacts of COVID-19 and some economic uncertainty, many residents have tightened their belts, and my job as the mayor is to do the same to keep our community affordable while maintaining those levels of services all of our residents have come to expect. I have painstakingly evaluated our balance sheet, our spending, our debt, and made the adjustments necessary to develop a responsible budget proposal that provides services but keeps that municipal tax flat. Now let's certainly discuss the 2022 municipal budget with the experts joining us here today. I'd like to introduce our Township Business Administrator, Alan Weinberg, and our CFO, George Lang. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the Mayor Dalina Show to talk about the budget and the process that it takes. Alan, just tell us, please, as well as myself, maybe a little bit more, but our residents, who you are, and maybe a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor Dalina. My name is Alan Weinberg. I'm the business administrator. Sometimes an easier title would be township manager, helping to run the town, which has over 300 full-time employees. I came here over 5 or 6 years ago and have enjoyed my time here in terms of management. I am sort of local to Middlesex County. I graduated from Rutgers, did my master's in public administration at Rutgers, also did an MBA at NJIT. And I've had the opportunity, thankfully, to work both at the federal, state, and in several cases at the local level. And I very much enjoy my time here in Monroe Township. And I enjoy working on putting the budget together with my colleague George, yourself, and the council, and working hard as you've instructed us to keep Monroe as affordable as possible.
Thanks, Alan. Again, welcome to the show. Love having you here. I think it's important that we have this discussion about the budget, and I look forward to some of the questions and answers that we will have. George, please tell us and tell the citizens of Monroe a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. My name is George Lang. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Monroe Township, and I have been for the past 15 years. In municipal government, I've worked as an auditor and as a finance officer, probably about 38 years now. I'm a certified public accountant and a registered municipal accountant. And yeah, I just love working in Monroe.
George, you bring that level of expertise that we almost maybe not appreciate, but when it comes to the taxpayers, we certainly appreciate that expertise that you bring to help keep that budget process quick, easy, and again, that end result is, for all intents and purposes this year, a flat rate, which is appreciated. Gentlemen, I mentioned the process, the budget process. Alan, perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about that budget process. It's not just doesn't happen like this. I see this process as a year-round process, and that culminates what we have here most recently with the budget being introduced and then ultimately passed by the council. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the process of the budget.
Sure. So it is a calendar year budget that begins January 1st and runs through December 31st, Mayor. But as you said, the budget is constantly ongoing, and we're constantly working through our current budget and planning for the next budget, and ultimately planning for a long-range budget, which is something that George and I work on very closely with both yourself and the council to make sure that that happens. The budget is the critical tool for keeping fiscal responsibility. Unlike other entities like the federal government and the state government, we have to sort of live within our budget at the municipal level. And as you know, I'll just mention it briefly, we do have a $66.9 million budget, which is somewhat significant. And so we do put in place all the controls necessary to manage that budget, manage that growth. We have amazing employees. And so we are constantly working on the budget. So what formally happens is in the early fall, we start to look at the following year's budgets. Department heads come in and begin to meet with some of the finance staff and myself to put together their budget. Ultimately, we do a temporary budget in the beginning of the year, as all municipalities do if they're on a calendar year. And then we generally introduce in the spring and then pass it at a public hearing all as well as in the spring as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. And again, I just appreciate your leadership, stewardship for the township, but obviously when it comes to the budget, just keeping an eye out on what we spend and what we certainly take in, and ultimately having that product which we can provide tax relief, a great tax base here in the township. George. There are many dynamics, financial dynamics, which you're an expert in, that go into the municipal budget. Can you elaborate a little bit about some of these external sources, dynamics that help this process along? Yeah.
Well, we look at the history, where we have been in the past, where things are going. We do a great job of managing our debt, which is a big, important part of our budget. We try to keep that flat, and which also leads to the level tax rate. And again, getting input from our departments and just we're working together on that. Yeah.
George, so when I'm going out and about, and when all of us are really trying to educate the citizens of Monroe about the budget process and some of these dynamics. Obviously, working with our debt and paying our bills, obviously. But Wall Street, recognition by Standards & Poor's and giving us a certain bond rating helps financially as well. Could you, when people, I talk about S&P or Standards & Poor, quite honestly, I didn't know too much about it until I got involved on the council here, and then ultimately now as mayor. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how it helps us financially here in the township, having a good bond rating?
Yeah. And Monroe Township has an excellent bond rating of AA+, and we've maintained that for a number of years. And what Standard & Poor's looks at is they look at the overall financial management. They look at how well do you manage your budget, how do you manage your debt, and they take all those factors in, and that's why we've been able to maintain our rate. And by having the better rate, you're going to get much lower interest rates. We recently sold bond anticipation notes at 2.35%, which in comparison to a lot of the other municipalities selling at the same time, we were right there, and actually pretty much one of the lowest ones out there. And historically, we're always getting the lowest interest rates, because of our excellent financial position, our reserves, and how we manage our budget. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And again, it's important because this is something that we tout, but we're also very proud of. But again, we can be proud of it. But what is the end result? And certainly, that end result of having that outstanding bond rating is a result of not only of our fiscal responsiveness over the years, but it does come back to help in the budget process, which ultimately helps the taxpayer. So thank you so much. Alan, so the last now 2 budgets, we've kept the tax rate for the most part flat. Last year was a wee bit of a decrease. This year we're proud to keep it flat. you know, again, I think about that process, and it's not something that we all of a sudden say, oh, let's talk about the budget. It's something that you and I know, discuss continually. And the theme is affordability. However, you need to balance affordability with the services that we provide here in Monroe Township. And I'd like to know a little bit about what your thought process is in regarding keeping that balance of affordability, but also keeping those services high here in Monroe Township. And as the business manager, the business administrator, you know, this is you being able to talk to our department heads. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about you and your philosophy in regards to that dynamic.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mayor. We obviously focus a lot on efficiency as best we can, and that's a word you certainly hear a lot. But we try and do as much as we can with the resources that we have. And so we continue to grow some of our departments as police and EMS have grown, and sort of make those critical investments. One of the things that I know you and I always talk about under affordability is how do we get additional resources from the state and/or federal government. And over the past few years, we've been successful at that in advocating for our residents and hand in hand. Whether that's been trying to fight for along the lines of property tax relief, you know, the homestead rebate expansion, which is happening now. We just passed something on energy tax receipts, which will hopefully help our residents as well, that the legislature is working on. You know, we've been fighting for additional school aid, which helps the overall community. We've been fighting for the retirement income exemption, the veterans tax exemption, and a whole variety of tools in the toolbox that have really helped us. We've taken advantage, as we should, and been aggressive in trying to take advantage of some of the different federal grants. We've doubled our state grants and local aid. So I think together, those things go together to try and make sure that our taxpayers are as protected as possible while we continue to try and expand services. We also have a great workforce. We've had great agreements going back several years with some of our unions that I think are, you know, positive, and we've reformed our health care a little bit to provide some savings that keep everything manageable. And collectively, you know, we have a good team. But it does come down to basically like any other business and operation, trying to be as efficient as you can, being thoughtful in your spending, counting every dollar that you have as carefully as you can, and looking for those outside sources of income that I always hear about from you and the council, about making sure that we can keep our tax rate as low as possible, our water and sewer rates as low as possible, while, to your point, trying to provide the services that we've come to enjoy.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. And again, that's a great reflection of just that dynamic of having affordability, but also our level of service. So as we wrap up our discussion regarding the budget, you know, I don't like throwing numbers out there, but Alan, if you could just kind of quickly, you know, what's the budget, what's the tax rate, you know, per household, and what could the citizen expect tax-wise when they get their bill?
Sure. So we are 20% of the tax bill. So I'll go into that briefly, Mayor, if I can. The municipal portion is 20%. The county portion is approximately 19%. The school portion is approximately 55%, and the fire districts are approximately 60%. So we make up 20% of it, but certainly we all are part of the same township. Our tax bill will be flat again on the township side, as it was decreased a little bit last year. We're waiting for the final county tax bill to come in. I believe the school district did their tax bill, and it went down a little bit, thankfully, because of their hard work and some additional state aid as well that came in. So our goal is to keep things as reasonable as we can. You know, the fire districts, I think, are up a tad a little bit, but overall, we want to keep the tax base stable. But in the municipality, it'll stay the same at 48.9 cents per thousand, or 0.489 per hundred, whichever way you'd like to do it. And sometimes that gets rounded a little bit by the county, 0.1%, but by and large, it's exactly the same. And so our goal will be to keep taxes as stable as possible, as it was last year, and continue to do that into the future. And we do look, George and I, as you know, when we discuss it with the mayor and yourself and the council, you know, for years ahead, not just in 1 year.
Very good. Gentlemen, I do want to thank you so much for being part of the Mayor Dalina show to discuss our budget, the budget process, and then ultimately the news of a flat tax here in Monroe Township. It's something, again, I'm very proud of. With that being said, to all the Monroe residents, enjoy the amenities that we have here in town. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, obviously you can always reach out to Town Hall. And again, affordability, but keeping our amenities at the highest level are important for the administration and for me. Monroe Township, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.